You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Check out the Israel Sports Radio store by clicking on the store tab on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Great items such as t-shirts, hats, books, and much, much more. Price does include shipping, and we do ship throughout the entire world. All major credit cards are accepted to make your shopping experience easy and convenient. So once again, click on the store tab on www.IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Live from Studio C at the Cherry Hill campus for the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, it's Sports Talk with The Sports.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Welcome to another edition of Sports Talk Broadcasting, simulcasted as the Yossi G Show here on IsraelSportsRadio.com. As always, if you want to get in on the phone conversation, get your voice heard, your opinion in my ears, 856-330-4749, or you send me a tweet on Twitter at the YossiG, that's THEYOSSIG, or a message on Facebook, facebook.com, and search for Sports Talk. We had the NBA draft a couple weeks ago, and obviously this past week there's been just the biggest news ever that the NBA offseason would be holding, and that, of course, is the decision of LeBron James to return to Cleveland. But we'll get into that a little later. Of course, we'll also touch on the decision, finally, for Carmelo Anthony to sign with a team. That, of course, going back to the New York Knicks. I think about $130 million worth of reasons for him to go back to New York. But firstly, I want to get into the other team in New York City, the Brooklyn Nets, rather. I'm thinking the New Jersey Nets, but things have happened over the last couple of years. The Brooklyn Nets. Mikhail Prokhorov, the owner, marketed himself last summer as a Russian hipster oligarch. Remember, he really charmed the writers and the Nets fans, and he threw out rubles to aged players with abandon. Now, over the Nets, a Moscow chill has really set in. Think about it this way. Jason Kidd, the rookie head coach for the Nets last season, he tried to execute a coup against the GM Billy King, but he ended up out the door and in Milwaukee. The Nets roster, it's really diminished every single day. I mean, the last player to go, besides for Kevin Garnett, the last one to leave the Nets lounge is Paul Pierce. He took his heart and his beautiful, still sweet shot, and he took it to the Wizards. So the Nets chose not to match Paul Pierce's contract offer sheet. The team has really lack of draft picks. They're millions of dollars over the luxury cap, and they're really staring down the barrel of perhaps, at best, a 41-41 season, a 500 season. So for the Nets, I really look at it as saying, good luck for next year, because you don't have Paul Pierce, you don't have Kevin Garnett, you don't have those, yes, they're old, and yes, you call into question the amount of minutes that they could play, but still, in bursts, in clutch moments, those were the guys who came up with the big shots, those were the guys who came up with the big points, and now they've taken their talents elsewhere. So what will happen with the Nets going forward is certainly going to be an interesting quandary, because we all remember, Mikhail Prokhorov guaranteed the Nets winning a championship within 5 years of him purchasing the team a couple years ago. So, as the saying goes, tick-tock, tick-tock, the clock is ticking on the Nets. Talking about the Knicks and talking about basketball in New York, really, this is the opportunity for the Knicks to really reclaim the fandom, reclaim the back pages of the tabloids in New York, because the Nets, like I just said, they don't have that much really going for them. But the Knicks this season have the ability to bring out positivity. Last year's 37-win subpar season behind them, they have the right direction going forward. Phil Jackson, GM, a new head coach, Derek Fisher. Carmelo Anthony's back at the helm, back in the seat for the Knicks. A couple of bad contracts are out. Oft-injured players like Tyson Chandler, and also heavy-set players, shall we say, like Raymond Felton, they're gone. And you have a team that could also win 42, 43 games next season, possibly even especially in a very weak bottom half of the Eastern Conference, could make a playoff spot, could make the playoffs 7th or 8th seed, and the year following have the opportunity to clear a lot of their bad contracts and have the opportunity to sign players who will be top flight free agents and can offer them big money, such as Kevin Love. So they're in a very good position right now, especially that Carmelo Anthony decided to come back for another couple seasons and trusts in the project that Phil Jackson has in front of him. A couple of the things that are interesting here is, of course, Carmelo Anthony, everybody seemed to have been waiting, including Carmelo, on LeBron's decision. It's not unheard of that you have on the star player of the league. Before he makes his decision, rarely will another player make his decision as to where he goes because he wants to have the best opportunity to win a championship. So chances are that he's going to want to go where the best player goes, and everybody knows the friendship between Carmelo and LeBron, and everybody expected this to be that way, where LeBron makes his decision, then Melo and everybody else will kind of fall into the domino effect from there. So that Carmelo decided he was going to stay in New York, certainly it really bodes well for the Knicks going forward. Yes, $130 or so million for what James Dolan gave to him is a pretty good reason to command Anthony coming back, but also it's the decision of belief in Phil Jackson's ability as a GM, not as a coach in this case, to put together a team that is competitive and has the ability to progress beyond just simple competitiveness in the years after this coming season. So that shows me that there's a lot of belief, there's a lot of positive energy going on in the New York Knicks, and something that hasn't happened in almost 15 years. I haven't seen that or felt that pretty much since the days of Latrell Sprewell and Allen Houston and Patrick Ewing. So it's been a while since New York fans had something like this to be able to look forward to, and it's been a while since the New York Knicks fan base has had a team that has the potential to really go forward and have more than just an immediate plan, but a 5-year plan, if you may, a future, a hope that they can be true competitors for the Larry O'Brien trophy in the forthcoming seasons. So let's look at Carmelo Anthony, and you talk about $130 million. It's a lot of money. Obviously, the free agent market is where you're going to have overpriced players coming onto a team, but sometimes you have to pay for that overpriced player because of what that player brings besides for just his shot, besides for just his defense, and beyond his abilities on the court. Now, Carmelo is a strange NBA beast, so to speak. He's an underrated star. Last year, he had more than 27 points and 8 rebounds a game. Yeah, it's difficult to watch him night after night and not respect the ability that he has on the offensive side of the board. He's a terrific defender's kind of hanging on his shoulders type of a shooter. He's got good hands to bring down rebounds, and he has a penchant for slowing the game down to his pace, where he can set the tone and create shots for his teammates. Now, the problem is that last year he had no teammates who could really hit 20-foot jumpers on a consistent basis. A couple years ago, they did. They had that in various three-point shooting guys like Steve Novak and Chris Copeland, but the Knicks hierarchy before last season kind of had this brain fart and let them go. And that's a problem because you bring in a guy like Andre Bargnani, who's a kind of an out of shape, he's a sporadically motivated 7-foot center who can shoot, but he gets injured also. And you have Iman Shumpert, who had who's a pretty good shooting, a kid who can shoot. He's a promising shooter, and suddenly last season just turned into this idea of a kid throwing rocks at a garbage can from a distance. So Anthony was going to shoot left. He was going to shoot again. He's going to shoot right. He was going to dunk, deke, and shoot again. Because when his team had either no days off or 1 day's rest, the teammates usually went to sleep, and Carmelo ended up scoring most of the times with high fatigue or in high fatigue, and he was the only one who really had that consistent night in, night out ability to score 20-plus points. The bill of indictment really on Carmelo is that I've heard a lot is that he's not a true team leader. It's possible, but the other thing is that his basketball talent is not equivalent to LeBron or, let's say, Kevin Durant's. But he's game. Every night, he comes to play. So you can't take away from somebody who shows up night in, night out. He may not be a leader. He may be the guy who always wants to shoot the ball, but he does try to get his teammates involved. If his teammates can't knock down shots, then that forces him to be the guy every single night, and that takes a toll on anybody over the course of an 82-game season going into the playoffs. When you have the skill set that Carmelo has, where he's able to create shots for himself, he's able to create shots for his teammates, you got to have guys who can knock down those shots. And last year, they did not. They really missed the guys like Novak and Copeland, players who can knock down shots from the outside. They had bring in Tim Hardaway Jr. Yeah, he has impressive athleticism. He's got a sweet shot, but he plays defense like a child who's running after a piece of pie. I mean, it's just, he plays it with reckless abandon. J.R. Smith, he's the guy, don't forget, he loves untying shoelaces and tested positive for marijuana. He's perpetually in adolescence, so it seems. But he can score and defend when the spirit of basketball moves him. But again, J.R. Smith, it's when the spirit of basketball moves him. It's not a night in, night out thing. Tim Hardaway Jr., a nice guy, a nice player. But again, he is suspect on the defensive side of the ball. You need guys who are all-around players that can play with Carmelo, and that's why the Knicks ended up only winning 37 games last season, besides for injuries and besides for those sort of things. It's really an indictment of the management from the season before that, which just completely brain farted in the offseason and let guys go who they needed to actually score, to actually be able to play with Carmelo. Now that you have a new management, a new hierarchy with the Knicks, guys, people who understand the playing style of Carmelo and what types of players he needs to play with him, that helps. That's going to help. And that'll help them going forward. It'll help the Knicks going forward into the next forthcoming seasons. You have a guy instead of Raymond Felton bringing up the ball as a point guard. You have a well-regarded point guard now in Jose Calderon. And you have two guys that they brought in in the second round of the NBA draft, Clay Anthony Early and some guy out of Greece who I cannot pronounce his name for the life of me. Those two guys have certainly the potential to be really rough diamonds, and you never know what could happen in the forthcoming seasons. Probably not this year, but the season after that, when the Knicks start to likely get better and really push towards championship contender, you have guys who are drafted in this season's draft in the second round. They certainly can make an impact. Look, I trust in the direction that Phil Jackson is going. And so much so, I don't think I'm the only one who trusts in the direction he's going. Take a look at the big boss man, James Dolan. If there is a true shaft of sunlight to be seen at the fortress that is Madison Square Garden, it's Dolan. He's the Knicks' Mount Etna, the oft-active volcano in Iceland. But that Mount Etna for the Knicks has essentially remained quiet. His eruptions in the past have been quite impressive. He torched coaches, and his rebuilding plans were really disquieting regularly and with regularity. But here, Dolan has essentially remained quiet and dormant. He hired Phil a couple months ago, and he sees and trusts in that which Phil Jackson is doing. Carmelo further proves this point because he's recommitted to the professional marriage that he has with the Knicks, and Jackson claims to have a plan for everybody. Look, with Carmelo coming back to New York, it obviously doesn't match the lightning strike in Cleveland, which we'll talk about after the break. But it certainly is not the patented Knicks chaos that we've come to expect from James Dolan the last decade. So certainly a positive way going forward. When I come back after this break, we'll talk a little bit about what the new coach has to say about the Knicks and the plans that he has for them, as well as LeBron going to Cleveland, and we'll get into some...
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
You know, the media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere, on air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting with locations up and down the East Coast from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
Radio powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, simulcasted as the Yossi G Show at IsraelSportsRadio.com. Again, you want to hop in on the conversation, 856-330-4749, or send me a message on Twitter at the Yossi G, TheYossig, or on Facebook, Facebook.com, as search for Sports Talk. Before we get into anything else, gotta talk a little bit about the whole situation with the Knicks in terms of what their coach said. Look, I respect the fact that Derek Fisher believes his team can make the playoffs, and I think he's right. Because even though the Knicks right now have a subpar roster and they're coming off a disheartening 37-win season, they still have the potential to make the playoffs in a very shoddy, very weak Eastern Conference, especially when you consider some of the turnover that's happened. The Brooklyn Nets probably are going to be on the outside looking in, and the Knicks finished the number 9 seed last year, which, of course, was the first seed to make the draft lottery. So there is a possibility here. There is potential, and when you look at what happened in the offseason already, they brought in Jose Calderon, they brought in Samuel Dalembert, they got rid of Tyson Chandler and Raymond Felton, Carmelo Anthony re-signed. There is a lot of positivity in the air in New York, and I don't think that Derek Fisher, although he's a rookie head coach and has yet to actually coach in a real NBA game, I don't think he stepped anywhere outside of his box to say that they have a chance to make the playoffs. Because, look, they can make the playoffs as the number 8 seed, and they didn't make the playoffs. He's not saying that they're a championship contender right now. I think he's aware of the situation, realistically aware of the situation, what his team is like. But to make the playoffs, that's a possibility. I don't see why not. I think that's certainly within the realm of the Knicks, especially when you also look at what happened last season with the Nets. They also had a rookie head coach. They also made the season, the NBA playoffs, the postseason. I don't think he really went beyond his scope of reality by saying that they cannot make the playoffs. Talking about basketball and the whole thing with LeBron James as well, I think it was great. Look, he goes back to Cleveland. I look at this as Michael Jordan coming back from going to the White Sox and coming back to Chicago, going back to the Bulls. Yeah, I know it's a little different because LeBron went to Miami, won 2 titles there with the Heat, went to 4 straight NBA Finals, and Jordan didn't win a thing with the White Sox. But still, in essence, what did Jordan do when he went back to the Bulls? He created a legacy in Chicago. What does LeBron James want to do with the Cleveland Cavaliers or with his own life, basketball life? He wants to create a legacy with a team that needs a legacy, with a city that is in dire desire of a championship-starved town like Cleveland that hasn't had one in 50 years. LeBron James is the guy to do it, and he understands that. He's matured enough beyond the last few years, beyond the decision number 1, when he went to Miami, he took his talents to South Beach. He's matured beyond that, and he understands that to bring a championship to his hometown after going through the tutelage in Miami that he got under Pat Riley and playing with the guys that he played with there, growing beyond his years right now, I think is something that the Cleveland fan base will love. Now, in terms of what he brings to Cleveland, there's, of course, the name of LeBron. He's had 2 titles, but he also brings the desire to change the fate of a city that's been that way for the last 5 decades, last 50 years. And it's his hometown team. It's a team that he really wants to do it in, and I think that by going back to the Cleveland Cavaliers, he shows the NBA world that the legacy is the thing that means the most to him. He has his titles. Now he wants something more than that, something that everybody will remember him for, and that being a legacy. Man to man, he is probably as good as Jordan is right now in his career. Of course, at the end of the career, you will say, you'll weigh everything, and time will tell. Championships, that argument, look, you want to get in on talk about the championships, give me a call, 856-330-4749, or send a message on Twitter or Facebook. But championships, that's a whole different discussion. 6 versus 5, 5 versus 2, 2 versus nothing. That's a whole separate discussion, a whole separate debate. But in terms of talent, pound for pound, so to speak, in terms of what the guy brings to the table night in, night out, and what the league feels about him as a whole, he's on par with Michael Jordan. There is no doubt about that in my mind. You want to get on the conversation? Again, 856-330-4749. Twitter, it's at the Yossi G, TheYossig, or on Facebook, facebook.com, and search for Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi. Going to move on to the NFL just for a moment here. The New York Jets seem to have a little budding quarterback controversy going on in Florham Park with the de facto starting quarterback right now, second-year sophomore quarterback Geno Smith, and, of course, the veteran that he brought in to be his backup, who I think actually is going to end up starting the season, Michael Vick. Look, Vick hasn't had a full season in a long time, so it will probably end up happening that Vick will win the starting position. He'll play a couple games. He'll get injured by like week 6 or week 7. While he's starting, he'll be able to show Geno Smith, who is very similar to Vick in terms of running and creating plays for himself, creating plays when things break down in the pocket. He'll be able to show him a couple things. And then when he gets injured, Geno will come in and take the mantle from where Vick left it. And I think that's what's going to end up happening. I don't look at it so much as a quarterback controversy. I look at it as a quarterback reality. In other news, the New York Rangers signed Matthew Lombardi for $1.6 million for a 2-year deal. Now, this, of course, remember, Matthew Lombardi was playing overseas for a couple years. He was playing in Switzerland, actually, last season, and really, this is a low-risk, high-reward type of a deal for the Rangers. They bring him in for 2 years, 1.6, to return to the NHL from Switzerland. He was injured the couple previous years while he was playing in the NHL, goes to Switzerland, has a really good season, 46 games, he had 20 goals, 50 points, and he led the Swiss Elite League in scoring. So the idea here with Matt Lombardi coming back to the NHL, He played 5 seasons in Calgary, had a pretty solid career there, set career high in goals in 2006, 2007. He participated in the 2004 Stanley Cup playoffs against the Red Wings. He has the ability to really do a lot with the puck. And the fact that the Rangers brought him in, I thought was a very good signing, because this is a guy who won't cost you a lot of money, and the upside for him also to really prove to the NHL world that he's back to play and he's over those injuries, it's there. The Rangers now have about $13.5 million to kind of figure out the rest of their free agency. They still have a couple unsigned players. So we'll see what Glenn Sather has to do. He has to, kind of bring back, Dominic Moore and see how he's going to sign some of the other players that he still has waiting in the wings. When I come back, we'll talk a little bit more about Rangers and how Henrik Lundqvist looks at the Rangers. Will he depart? Will he stay? Stay tuned.
Honey, again you're sitting here sulking?
I hate my job, and I don't know what to do to change it.
Get off the couch and go check out the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
The Connecticut School of Broadcasting? What's that? The Connecticut School of Broadcasting offers a career and lifestyle change through a broadcasting experience you won't ever forget. Log on to GoCSB.com to find out how a career in broadcasting is for you and not just the people you see on TV or hear on the radio. CSB focuses on many aspects of real-world broadcasting, and their knowledgeable instructors teach you through a hands-on approach so you're in the studio in no time. To find out how CSB can help you work in an industry you love, call 1-800-TV-RADIO or check us out online at GoCSB.com. Why work 50 weeks a year for a 2-week vacation when you can enjoy your job every day? Don't just sit there. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Thanks, CSB. Welcome back, Sports Talk with the Sport Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, simulcast as the Yossi G Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com. As always, you can jump in on the hopper, 856-330-4749, or you just send me a tweet at the Yossi G, TheYossig, or, of course, send me a message on Facebook, facebook.com, and search for Sports Talk. One of these interesting things I just came across has been the New York Rangers obviously had a really good season this past year, and one of the big questions and concerns, rather, is Henrik Lundqvist's window of opportunity is closing on him, as he's not getting any younger as the years go on without the Rangers winning a title. So, of course, that begs the question when Henrik was in Sweden now, and recently was doing a Head & Shoulders commercial, and a couple of news media people there in Sweden caught up with him and brought the question that a lot of people had on their mind to him, and that, of course, is would he pull a Ray Bourque and go elsewhere to chase a championship? Now, for those who need a little bit of a history lesson, Ray Bourque, a career player with the Boston Bruins, and the last season that he played in the NHL, he went to the Colorado Avalanche and, of course, won a title there in 2001 when they beat the Devils. So, that being the case, Ray Bourque winning a title his last season in the NHL, then retiring on top, retiring a champion. Of course, that is a question that a lot of, Swedish people want to know, but certainly a lot of New Yorkers have in the back of their minds, and a lot of Rangers fans have on the back of their heads. But, of course, most are afraid to address it because of the potentiality for an answer that they're not happy with. Well, hopefully this will put a lot of your doubts to rest, because I have here an excerpt of the responsa that Lundqvist gave to the Swedish media outlet Expressen through a translation by Jonathan Lindquist, which was provided to thescore.com. Says, as soon as we lost in the final, it felt that I wanted to go home. The loss was tough, a huge disappointment, but at the same time, I'm very happy with the way we performed as a team. I believe that you always look back on certain parts of the run. Some are good, and some, of course, were not so good. It took me 9 years to reach my first final. It's one thing when you're competing in individual sports, then it's only up to you. But now it's many pieces on a team that all have to fall into place. So that was Lundqvist in regards to the actual feeling of losing to the LA Kings in the Stanley Cup Final and how he feels coming back to the Rangers and how he feels looking at it from his perspective as the goalie for the Rangers. And when asked about ever pulling a Ray Bourque, so to speak, leaving the Manhattan market for another team in pursuit of a Stanley Cup trophy, he said, I have a very hard time seeing myself doing that. Then again, there's so much going on every season. The way people perceive you, you have a good feeling now, but if you have a rough 6 months, the complaints are going to be raised. Fans are short on patience, especially in New York. I've always been saying that my biggest dream is to win, but also to win in New York. It's tough to look into the future, but heck, I want to be a New Yorker. If I get the chance to play these 7 years here, I will. Well, that, of course, he's referring to his new contract, and that's really Lundqvist that you have it. You know, he's loyal, he's a genuine guy, and he's singularly great at stopping pucks. And hopefully for the New York Rangers fans, he will be singularly great at stopping pucks for the forthcoming future, and so much so where the Rangers will finally win that elusive cup, the first since 1994. Other news, interestingly enough, the Alex Rodriguez saga does not seem to quit, does not seem to go away. It's seemingly wherever you turn, no matter how much LeBron talk or no matter how much Carmelo talk or Yankees or anything else going on right now, Alex Rodriguez himself, his own lonesome self, seems to always be just around the corner. And for that matter, when you have a guy who's had as much media, both good and not so good, said about him, it really brings to thought where exactly his mind is. I mean, right now, according to the Daily News, Alex Rodriguez's lawyer from the Atlanta-based law firm of Gordon and Reese filed a lawsuit this week in Manhattan Federal Court contesting that A-Rod did not fully pay for his attorney David Cornwell's services. If you don't recall, Cornwell he unsuccessfully fought to exonerate Rodriguez from the blame in the biogenesis case, and of course, that being the situation, A-Rod hasn't paid for him apparently $380,000 in unpaid legal bills to David Cornwell and to Gordon and Reese law firm. So what can I say about Alex Rodriguez's twilight of his career? It's being further mired in litigation. And at this point in time, I mean, you really think about it, what the heck is going on in his head? Earlier this month, there was a report in Sports Illustrated from authors Tim Elfrink and Gus Garcia-Roberts. They have a book coming out soon called Bloodsport, and they revealed, and there's an excerpt in Sports Illustrated, that A-Rod won his 2007 AL MVP award secretly being allowed by Major League Baseball to use anabolic steroids. Now, we know in 2003 he was on steroids and he won the MVP then, and kind of almost seems to be that with time everything kind of goes away, and you seem to forget that it happened in 2003. We remember, but it seems like, okay, it's kind of a little bit over the hill. It's been more than 10 years. It kind of almost let it go. But now that also you'd say the 2007 MVP as well, that's 2 out of those 3 MVPs that he won, 2003, 5, and 7, that were for sure under the auspices of steroid use. That is a problem with baseball fans because they seem to have been able to forgive him for one. You forgive him, okay, everybody makes a mistake. Make a mistake, don't do it again, I'm really sorry, mistakes happen. That's what makes this country such a beautiful place because we are a very forgiving country. We are a nation that gives second chances and believes in giving second chances, and we're ready to do it with people, even one such as Alex Rodriguez. But to do it again, to take drugs again, take steroids, ban substances, and then go ahead and those seasons, he won a World Series, got a 600 career home run, won a couple more MVP awards while with the Yankees. It almost seems as if he doesn't care. He slaps really every sort of straightforward thinking to the side, just pushes it off to the side, kisses it goodbye, and essentially gives a big eagle middle finger to the fan base that is Major League Baseball fandom. It's a little shocking and a little surprising. Not so much that he hasn't paid his legal bills, which in itself is like, dude, how much money have you made in your career? What's $380,000? You hired the guy anyways to fight for you. He didn't win. It happens. That's what going to court is. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. You didn't win. Just pay the bills. This is bad press that you don't need. And I'm a firm believer in there's no such thing as bad press, except when it comes to something like this. Like, you already have a name in the American conscious that is synonymous with cheating and is synonymous with dirty and is synonymous with sleazy. This does not help your case in fighting those perceptions of what you are and who you are. This just further goes ahead and exemplifies what everybody believes in and fortifies that decision by the fan base to think of you in this light. Oh, look, A-Rod, yeah, he took drugs, yeah, he took steroids, yeah, he won a couple of MVPs with it, and oh, did you also hear he's such a sleaze that he hires a guy to fight for him and doesn't even pay him, and leaves him hanging high and dry with a $380,000 tab of unpaid legal bills. Why, Alex Rodriguez, do you do something as idiotic, as stupid, as selfish as that? Now, going to that Sports Illustrated piece, I don't know if anybody really picked it up, but basically the gist of it is really shocking because it says Major League Baseball basically allowed A-Rod to use steroids in 2007, 2008, according to Bloodsport, according to the book by Tim Elfrink and Gus Garcia-Roberts, and obviously the excerpt is on SI.com. You think about it, and it really is interesting because there's this clause, like a therapeutic clause that baseball allows for players to submit exemptions that they should be allowed to use various banned substances to the overall Major League Baseball the Major League Baseball Players Association and to all the players. But there is a clause in the CBA that allows them to apply for various exemptions for various banned substances and performance enhancers. So to say on the one hand, I will say that Major League Baseball is one of the biggest hypocrites in the entire steroid scandal, in the entire steroid era, because they are facilitators of it. I mean, look, in 1998 rather, where were you when you heard all about the Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Ken Griffey Jr., when you heard of they're chasing Roger Maris's home run record of 61 home runs? Where were you when that happened? Were you sitting on your couch going, change the channel? Or were you really excited about it and you really wanted to find the channels that these games were on, watch every game you possibly could get that these guys were playing in, every at-bat, just you were on the edge of your seat whenever these guys came to the plate because a home run was just around the corner. You never knew when that next pitch from the pitcher would end up in the stands. I can tell you, for me, I was glued to the TV because I wanted to see history-making baseball. I wanted to see record-breaking home runs. I wanted to see power. I wanted to see long balls, and Major League Baseball allowed that to happen. They basically facilitated it. They say, hey, here's some steroids. Go ahead and go use it. I mean, they didn't actually do that in literal sense, but for all intents and purposes, they allowed it to happen. The marketplace was an area where this was not shied away from This was not looked down upon. This was something that a lot of baseball players were doing in order to get an edge, in order to get fans' tuchuses into those seats in the baseball stadiums, and in order for the TV contracts and the TV Nielsen ratings to go through the roof. So, to say that Major League Baseball was the facilitator and allowed for this thing to happen, I don't think that would be such a far thought, such a stretch from reality. Because when you look at the numbers and you look at what was going on in those years through the early 2000s when they finally said enough is enough, we have to crack down on steroids and eradicate it from the game that is baseball, that is the America pastime. Well, guess who put it there and who made that as an issue in the first place? Sure, there were some players here and there always, doing it since they found that they could do something like this. But when you have the hierarchy of your sport essentially turning the other cheek, looking away, and kind of not wanting to even have anything to do with this steroid, what ended up turning into a problem, what ended up becoming known as the steroid era, that's not all the players' fault. Players are just doing it because they're being allowed to, and they want to make a buck while they still can as being professional athletes in Major League Baseball. So what happens when you have something like this? You have baseball people saying, that's okay, that's fine. I don't put the blame on the players. I mean, there is some blame to be put on the players because at the end of the day, they do it, but most of the blame goes on baseball for allowing it to happen. So that this excerpt ended up in Sports Illustrated, that this piece came out or is coming out in the book, Bloodsport, by these two guys, claiming that A-Rod won his 2007 AL MVP award while being secretly permitted by Major League Baseball to use the anabolic steroids. Doesn't surprise me. It's not shocking. I mean, it's sad more so than anything else. Doesn't shock me, so to speak. But when I look at the Alex Rodriguez situation in and of itself, I find that the Alex Rodriguez situation goes above and beyond baseball allowing for certain players to have exemptions to the rule. Because when you read this excerpt and you read the article and you get a little, and you buy the book and you see what this whole situation is all about, you will see, you will know, you will become informed that Alex Rodriguez was not sitting back and saying, okay, what baseball allows me to use, I'm going to use. He wanted more. What baseball gave him was a finger. He wanted the whole hand. And that's why he got busted. And that's why he's currently sitting out for a whole season on a suspension. And that's why he had the whole biogenesis doping battle to begin with. Because he was not content to sit back and say, all right, Major League Baseball, you allow me to use certain steroids? Beautiful. I'm going to go use those steroids. I'm going to go make my money. I'm going to go hit my home runs. I'm going to be amazing. Going to the Hall of Fame first ballot. It's going to be beautiful. That wasn't enough for him. No. Alex Rodriguez needed to be the best ever in baseball, no matter the position, and was going to pull a Manny Ramirez, finding his, so to speak, fountain of youth when he went from the Red Sox to the Dodgers and hit 37 home runs after hitting only 20 the season before. He wanted to find that fountain of youth. You know where that fountain of youth was? South Florida, Biogenesis Clinic. Tony Bosch. That was the fountain of youth, and that was what he found. I really think that just like the excerpt in SI brings out when A-Rod really went ahead and decided, okay, I'm going to go use Tony Bosch, was when he had a 600th home run conundrum. Remember, he didn't hit a home run for like 2 weeks, and he was stuck on 599 for what seemed like forever. I think that's really when he said, enough is enough. I don't want to have to deal with normalcy. I don't want to have to deal with regular, my body, so to speak, slowing down, breaking down as the age creeps up to me. I want to find that fountain of youth. I want to be able to hit home runs like I did when I was 25, even though I'm 35, 36, 37, going up in age. That was the issue. The issue was he never wanted to get old. He wanted to stay young, he wanted to stay healthy, and he wanted to be able to smack home runs over in Yankee Stadium and dazzle fans by the way that he still remains young and healthy and able to do that. There was Alex Rodriguez's mistake. The mistake was trying to find the fountain of youth that he knew other people were using. The fountain of youth not being legit, not being legal. The fountain of youth being something that he would end up violating, that being Major League Baseball's performance-enhancing drug policy. He found it. It worked, but only for so long before it eventually caught up to him. Now that it caught up to him, it seems that no matter where we turn as fans, no matter where we turn as baseball fans, Yankee fans, love him or hate him, Alex Rodriguez fans, that wherever we turn, his name pops up in the most unflattering of terms, in the form of sleaze, of slander, of just being a two-timing lowlife of a baseball player.
It's been 48 years Connecticut School of Broadcasting has helped place thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
Your computer is blowing up to the sounds of All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Welcome back to Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Simulcasted as the Yossi G Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com. If you want to jump in on the telephones, 856-330-4749, or send me a message on Facebook, Facebook.com, search for Sports Talk with the. You can send me a message on Twitter at the Yossi G. That's TheYossig. What's interesting, of course, it's the end. The World Cup is finished. The World Cup is over. It was a fun month. It's always a fun time, the World Cup. You know, every 4 years, the world's best coming together to kind of duke it out for the chance to claim themselves as the best soccer nation in the world. Now, of course, the United States doesn't have a chance of being the best soccer nation in the world when soccer is considered probably the number 5 sport in this country. And in most of the countries that the U.S. plays against, soccer is the only sport. It is the number 1 sport. It will always be the number 1 sport. So, of course, the U.S. has a lot of issues to work through in order to soccer, or for soccer to become a better and more popular sport in this country. And I think they're doing a lot of good to try to promote soccer and to promote the sport in the United States. For starters, MLS has grown significantly over the last 10, 12 years, adding a couple more teams this year. And, of course, you also have the influx of older European players. Those who follow soccer in the United States recognize these players' names, from players like David Beckham and people like Thierry Henry making their way over across the Atlantic to play in the Major League Soccer in the United States. That certainly has helped the fan base of MLS and has helped soccer grow in the last 10 to 12 years here in this country. What I kind of brought out from soccer is, of course, there's a new Spain in town, that being Germany. I mean, they look at the German machine, just constantly playing so well, so beautiful, very precise, and they have layer upon layer of players. Players go down, there's other players to come in, pick up the slack, and play and perform as cogs to the German machine without the machine really having any form of hiccups. Argentina played extremely well, but at the end of the day, when you miss chances like there was in the beginning for Argentina in the beginning of the final against Germany, you're not going to win the game. It's just simple as that. Lionel Messi can only do so much. So when I look at the World Cup overall, there's a couple of things that I kind of circle and say, there is a future, and I also say on the other side, there is problems. Now, the two biggest things for me, one on each side, there's a future for American soccer, because even though the U.S. were knocked out by Belgium, and they had their chances to beat Belgium. Let's be quite frank here. They had the opportunity to beat Belgium in regulation. They had the opportunity to tie Belgium in extra time and push the game to a penalty shootout. It happens. They didn't. It's not the end of the world. Worse things have happened. But what really I draw from that game is that a player like Tim Howard, who has Tourette's, he suffers with that illness, and is still able to play the way he played against Belgium especially, but perform on the highest stage at the highest level of professional soccer in his sport, that really, to me, shows the perseverance, and the ability for the human being, for man to overcome all obstacles. When you put your mind and your efforts for it, go full steam ahead. Yes, there will be trials and tribulations along the way, but you are able to do it. It really does show a little bit of heroism to those who may need a little bit of somebody to display that there's a possibility you can do it. They need somebody there, and he's the type of guy who shows that it is possible. You just need to put your mind to it, and you can overcome all obstacles. Talking about overcoming obstacles, and this is a knock on FIFA, and there's been so many knocks on FIFA over the years. I mean, don't forget, there was most of the sports in the world have taken to modern technology, specifically instant replay. FIFA, however, the International Federation for Soccer, we shy against modern technology. We want to keep the game archaic. We want to keep it in its ancient form, and we don't want to bring it in any modernity to it, other than, of course, having the World Cup, making a couple $1 billion off of it and charging the countries extraordinary fees in order to have it, in order to host the month-long spectacular every 4 years. But besides for that, we have no interest. Instant replay has been the thing that a lot of players and coaches and fans alike have all called for to be used in specific situations. Now, I remember when Ireland was playing France a couple years ago. I think it was basically the winner would go to the World Cup, and I believe that it was 2 World Cups ago, the 2006, leading up to the 2006 World Cup, or maybe it was 2010. I'm not sure which one it was. But either way, Ireland it was a tie game, but no, I'm sorry. I take that back. It was a tie game, and Ireland had the ball, and at this point in the game, because it was a tied game, they had the advantage of goals because of the aggregate that they had in the other game previously with France. So now France has the ball. They score, France does, because of a handball by one of the French players. I believe actually it was Thierry Henry. Not only once, but twice he patted the ball in order to control it right in front of the Irish net and scores the goal. Ireland's out of the World Cup qualifying, and France is in. And they are going, either it was in 2006 or it was in 2010. A lot of people had said they should put an instant replay right after that. And FIFA, Joseph Blatter, the guy who's in charge of FIFA, the president of FIFA, said, nope, we don't want any modern technology involved in soccer. We don't want any sort of modernity to infuse itself and find itself into the holy game of soccer. We want to keep it in its ancient, archaic form. Okay, look, that's your decision. I have to respect your decision because at the end of the day, you're the guy who obviously knows what's best for the sport. But if anybody was watching the World Cup final, Germany and Argentina, and in the 22nd minute, there is a guy, I forget his first name on Germany, but is Kramer. And he was running down the flank, and he got pummeled by his shoulder. It was not blatant, but both he and the Argentine defender were going after the ball, and he just got destroyed, absolutely smacked into by this Argentine defender. And guess what happened? Most likely, I think everybody and their grandmother was able to say that, to detect this guy had a concussion. I mean, he looked dazed. He looked like he had no idea where he was. And what happens? He comes off the sideline for like a minute. And the doctors assess him and say, yeah, you're fine? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm okay. I want to go back in. Okay, you're fine? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, go in. And he goes in. And guess what happens? Not surprisingly, less than 10 minutes later, he just falls down on the floor because he's concussed. He has a head injury. He falls down because he really has no idea where he is because his brains are all mishmashed and scrambled like a bunch of eggs because of that hit that he suffered a couple minutes before. Why does FIFA not impose some kind of concussion regulation? They seem to not want it. They resist it. They've said it publicly that they don't want to put something in. Why? It's for the health and safety and benefit of your players. Why do you refuse to put in something that will help keep them healthy, that will help them perform better on the field, that will help your brand, that will help grow the sport? Yes, the sport is at an all-time high, but it can be even better. There could be no complaints about it. Yeah, you want to complain about instant replay, okay, fine. I mean, there's complaints to be had, but at the end of the day, they don't want instant replay. They don't have to have instant replay. They could always say that soccer will be the sport that you have with the human element involved and deal with it. But concussion regulations? I mean, that's just logical. I mean, come on. The guy's obviously injured. He obviously can't run up and down the field for the rest of the game. He's got to be taken out a couple minutes later anyways because he collapses. What happens if he collapses and hits his head again? Further injuring himself. You're leaving your own players out there at their own risk because of an injury that obviously was an accident, whatever it is. They're injured. Take them out. Have some kind of concussion regulation installed and put in place like there are in other sports. Why do you refuse in soccer to put in a concussion regulation? Why, FIFA, are you resistant and hesitant to put in a regulation which will help the players' safety? I don't understand. I'm at a loss here. And I think that the World Cup final, Germany-Argentina, where you saw Kramer go down with that head injury, when you saw him get back onto the field a minute later and play 5, 6, 7, 8 more minutes and then collapse again because of that head injury, I think that's where you have to draw the line if you're FIFA. If you're the fans, you've got to draw the line. If you're the players, you've got to draw the line. If you're the coaches, you've got to draw the line and say, FIFA, enough is enough. Well, that's all for Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, simulcasted as the SCG show at IsraelSportsRadio.com. Don't forget, as always, check it out on Facebook and follow me on Twitter at the SCG, THEYOSSIG. The discussions will be all on the rest of the week. And also don't forget to check me out with Sports Schmooze. That's sports with a Z. Check it out on Facebook, like it, Twitter, like it, Instagram, love it, and, of course, the videos on YouTube. From Cherry Hill campus of Connecticut School of Broadcasting, I am Yossi G. This has been a presentation of the Yossi G Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com and, of course, the Sports Rabbi here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Have a great weekend.
You know, our jobs occupy more than half our waking hours. Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
All Noise Radio. The noise you can't ignore.